Welcome back. All right, so after 3 years of missing the playoffs, it definitely looks like Pittsburgh's finally in the midst of a rebuild. And a change behind the bench. We still do not know who's going to be the new coach, so let's go ahead and dive in. We'll look at the last 3 seasons. So it starts with 2022-2023, when surprisingly Pittsburgh misses the playoffs. They go 40, 31, and 11, 91 points to miss the playoffs by one single solitary point that year. 2023-2024, they finished 38, 32, and 12, 88 points. They were 3 points out. So both of those seasons you could look at and say, well, they're outside the playoffs, sure, but they're not that far out. A couple of wins during an 82-game schedule, and they're in. But that changed this season. They finished 34, 36, and 12 for 80 points, 11 points back of a playoff spot. They're definitely trending away from the playoffs, but it does feel like Kyle Dubas is realizing that these changes need to be made now. They've generally been acquiring picks and younger players, and it may be more of a retool, but I would think this coming season in Pittsburgh, probably going to be a bit of a bumpy ride for some, but fans will probably be fine with it because next year's number one draft pick is very likely to be Gavin McKenna. He does project to be a star player, and it is the one thing Pittsburgh doesn't have in their farm system. They have some good young players coming up, sure, but I know nobody can replace Crosby, just like nobody could replace Mario Lemieux, but Crosby certainly tried. And so they need the next guy, that next superstar player, who's going to try to be the face of this franchise. And obviously in the hopes of the fans, it'll be that he succeeds. Now, looking at the scoring per period, it is odd that they had 80 points. And yet the scoring per period is worse than some of the teams I've already talked about who finished lower than them in the standings. First period, they get outscored 79-67. Second period, they get outscored 100-76. Third period, they got outscored 102-90. So they did get 90 goals in the third, but they had allowed 102 in overtime. So once they got to extra time, they scored 9 and they allowed 6. So they were pretty good 3-on-3, but definitely some struggles to get there. If they had a lead after the first period, it was rare, but it worked out pretty well. 18, 4, and 5 when they had a lead after the first period. So that's 27 times out of 82 games they had a lead after the first. And if they had a lead after the second, they were pretty good at closing it out. 21, 2, and 3. So 26 times in an 82-game schedule, Pittsburgh had a lead after the second period. So it definitely some games they won that they were tied or trailing going into the third period. And I think the record's probably better than one might expect when you look at the underlying numbers. So Crosby led the way in scoring. Crosby does not respect the aging process, has decided that aging really does not interest him. Crosby plays 80 games, has 33 goals, 58 assists, 91 points this season. So yeah, he's not aging at all. Rickard Rakell, 81 games, 35 goals, 35 assists, 70 points. Really enjoying it in Pittsburgh. Brian Rust, 71 games, 31 goals, 34 assists for 65 points. Carlson, 82 games, 11 goals, 42 assists, 53 points. Malkin, 68 games, 16 goals, 34 assists, 50 points. It is fair to say that Malkin is not the player now that he was 10 years ago, which is kind of how that's supposed to work when you get into your late 30s. Crosby's he's an exception to that rule. So Letang also getting older. I wanted to mention Letang here, 74 games, 9 goals, 21 assists, 30 points. Still a good defenseman in the NHL, but we'll talk about the age a little bit again when we get to this part of the board. Now we're going to talk a bit about goaltending, because goaltending has been quite the story around the Pittsburgh Penguins, or the lack of quality goaltending, right? At times, Jari's down in the AHL, comes back up, plays pretty well after the call-up, but then falls into some of the same bad habits, and his overall number's not great. A record of 16, 12, and 6. He's the only goaltender with a winning record out of the three here. .893 save percentage. And his quality starts percentage, 48.6%. Meaning that 48.6 of his starts, you got a save percentage of 900 or better. Which is not the worst in the league, but it's not where you want your starter to be. Nedeljkovic, 14, 15, and 5 record, .894 save percentage. And quality starts in 51.4% of his games. Meaning that Nedeljkovic gave them a little bit better goaltending than Jari, but not by a lot, not by an overwhelming amount. Bloomquist, 4-9 and 1 record, .885 save percentage, 41.7% in terms of quality starts from Bloomquist. Bloomquist, obviously the younger of the three goaltenders, When you look at the overall goaltending picture, an .891 save percentage was 29th in the National Hockey League. Both Pennsylvania teams struggled when it came to the goaltending this year, but then the question has to be asked. So next season, will these numbers get better? Will they go out and try to fix the goaltending? I don't know that they're going to be looking to make this team better, or if they're going to be looking for a stopgap. We shall see. So scoring right around the middle of the league, they scored 2.95 goals per game. That's 18th. The goals against a problem. 3.5 goals against per game. That's 29th in the NHL. Their power play was 6th overall at 25.8%. Their penalty kill, 18th at 77.8%. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, some middle of the road numbers. The power play, obviously, dramatic improvement from the season before where it was really anemic. So there is definitely some positive when you look at the numbers for Pittsburgh, but I would think that next season they're going to be just fine with having a poor record and having a chance at a top draft pick in what's supposed to be a pretty darn good draft. So they do have cap space July the 1st, $23.03 million in cap space. And there's always the chance that they're going to be in the running for a free agent or two. I don't think they'll be aggressive. I really don't. Because of the reasons stated before. You have a chance to potentially get a franchise player next year. Pittsburgh will likely be one of those teams that isn't all that concerned with necessarily getting better and more concerned with the big picture and the long-term future. So Crosby, $8.7 million cap hit until 2027. That's probably where his career comes to an end, right? So it's 2025. That's 2 more years. 2 more years for Crosby if that does mark the end. Malkin, $6.1 million cap hit for 1 more year. We may be in this ridiculous position next trade deadline where maybe Malkin's on the block, which, as crazy as that sounds, that could happen. He's on an expiring contract. Carlson, it's a $10 million cap hit because San Jose is still eating some of that cap hit till 2027. So 2 more years for Carlson. Letang has 3 more years left at $6.1 million in terms of cap hit. Tristan Jarry, 3 more years for Jarry as well. The cap hit $5.38 million. Makes it difficult to trade him. We'll see if they decide to maybe they use a buyout. Who knows, right? So looking at the drafting position, they're 11th. They could also have the 12th from the New York Rangers if they decide to take that draft pick and transfer it to Pittsburgh, because otherwise it's an unprotected 2026 first round draft pick. And that's pretty dangerous. I think the Rangers probably hand the number 12 pick to the Penguins. Even though the Rangers are likely to jump back into the playoffs next year, likely isn't a certainty. So looking at draft picks this year, Pittsburgh has 3 third-round draft picks, 2 fifth-round draft picks. Next year they have 3 second-round draft picks and 2 thirds. 2027 they have 2 seconds, 3 thirds, and 2 fourths. So they've started to stockpile some draft picks. They need some good young players coming into the lineup. Me understanding there are already some good young players in their system, but they don't have that superstar, that guy who's going to, really electrify the audience and give this team a chance to go back towards a Stanley Cup rather than retreating away from it. So looking at the age of the players, Crosby's going to turn 38 in August. Malkin turns 39 this summer as well. Carlson turns 35 on May the 1st. Or May 31st. Sorry, May 31st. We already had May the 1st. Letang just turned 38. And Jarry just turned 30. So all of them 30 or older. Letang at age 38. So it will be interesting to see if all of these players are fine going through the retool/rebuild, however you want to flag it. Or if any of them are going to say, I'd like a chance to win another Stanley Cup before my career is done. Obviously, Malkin stands out there because he's going to turn 40 next summer. So he might be open to moving to a contender next year at the deadline. We have no idea what's going to happen between now and the trade deadline next year. I'm just saying it's possible. It's absolutely possible. So I know he would never think of it. Probably not, but by next trade deadline, we just don't know. So with Sullivan exiting to the Rangers, the question then becomes, do the Penguins go out and find a veteran? Do they go out and find a younger coach? Do you find somebody who's really good at the teaching aspect and not worry about the results on the ice in terms of wins and losses? I think that's the way that they should go. We'll see what they end up doing. Kyle Dubas, of course, as general manager, has come under fire for some of the things that have been done, but I think he was trying to keep this team in the playoff hunt, and he did pivot last season. And so what we're seeing with this team now is one that is very likely still out of the playoff picture next year, probably much further than they were this season. And they're definitely in need of some young players, some young up and comers. I know McGroarty's there. I know there's others, Koivunen as well, but they need that star for the future, because while Crosby's still playing ridiculously well, eventually you would think aging would take over. Maybe. Hasn't with Ovechkin. Maybe it's not going to with Crosby either, but we shall see. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And so this upcoming 12 months for Pittsburgh, from now until the next time that I'll be talking about teams that are outside of the playoffs, it is likely we see Pittsburgh get a little bit worse, with an eye towards the draft and young players and trying to figure out how to turn this team back into a contender years from now. Let me know your thoughts, though. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I will talk to you again soon.